Greetings, humans. My name is Dan.
And I'm Tiara, and this is the Thing of the Week.
This week was, or last week, was the Electronic Entertainment Expo, which may be better known to you as E3. And this was a big year at E3 because it was the year that all of the various electronics makers unveiled their next generation video game consoles.
Right, so the Wii U has been out for a while actually, so Nintendo, released some information about some new games, but really the big news was about the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. And there's been a bit of controversy because a lot of people feel like Microsoft handled the revealing of the Xbox One, or Xbone if you prefer, kind of poorly. There's a lot of features that people are pretty unhappy with, and the way that it's been handled as far as PR has kind of been, well, we don't care that you don't like these things, we're just going to do them anyways.
Right. So, we are actually a Xbox 360 household. But I've been told, and kind of agree with, that we are probably switching to the PS4 coming up, and there's been a lot of changes going on between the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One, and that really seems to be turning off a lot of people. So why don't you talk about some of the things that it looks like are going to be controversial.
Right. So one of the things that's really controversial is the way that the Xbox One will need to be connected to the internet at all times, pretty much. You can disconnect for up to 24 hours, but after that you have to reconnect, otherwise it kind of blocks you from using it, which people really find actually kind of ridiculous. I brought up that we were talking about the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 on today's episode of the blog, or the podcast, and a couple of our fellow writers over at Pop Cults had a couple of things to say, in particular about the 24-hour chat. Our fellow writer Dan Shadow said, "The thing that I dislike the most about the Xbone is the 24 check. That's just introducing potential for more things that could go wrong. Remember how many times XBL was down for a whole weekend? If the service on their end goes down for more than 24 hours, do we get locked out?" And that's, I think, a legitimate question. Like, if something happens and Microsoft servers go down, does that mean you can't game? And also, what about people overseas? Like people who are serving in the military and are in, let's say, Afghanistan. They're according to Microsoft's PR team, they just should play the Xbox 360 and they should not have an Xbox One, which seems kind of silly to me.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that I do not agree with is the always having to be connected, because we've seen how that doesn't work with games like the new SimCity, which I was really looking forward to but didn't work, with the new Diablo, which we were really looking forward to but did not work on our computer because it had to be connected to the internet constantly. Right. I think there's just too much danger of it just not working. There are a couple things that I think make a little bit more sense that a lot of people have been complaining about. One thing is these sort of digital downloads of games instead of discs, and you don't own a disc, and maybe it changes. Now, I have come from someone with experience of having someone eat their Rock Band CD. Also, I mean, that really, that you lose a lot of costs there.
Right.
That you might otherwise have, so it could really bring down the price of games. You're not going to see games below $60 unless they do that. So that's one thing I think a lot of people have complained about that I think really could be good in a lot of ways, though there are a couple disadvantages to it.
Well, I mean, digital downloads are one thing. I think the thing that people have a problem with is that you have to install the game to your hard drive. So if you buy a disc, you have to install it to your hard drive, and the hard drive in the Xbox One, unlike with the PS4, is not removable, so you can't really expand or do anything else with that, first of all, and having to have the game installed, I guess it's a 500 gig hard drive, so that's not as big of a deal, but like we only have the 20 gig hard drive on our Xbox 360, and if we had to install every single game, we would be spending hours installing and uninstalling games just to be able to play them.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think it goes into the whole issue of, well, you can give this game to your friend once, and that's it.
Right.
You know.
And another interesting aspect of the Xbox One is they really want it to be the sort of center of your living room. They have, you know, trying to have deals with cable companies where it's basically acting like your cable box. You're running all the TV through it, basically, and all those kinds of things. So it's trying to bring it all together into one package. It also finally plays Blu-rays, which is something the Xbox 360 did not do, but I believe the PS3 did.
Yes.
And now the PS4 still does. But it's one, so they're trying to provide a little bit more all-in-one functionality that the PS4 may or may not have altogether. But of course, the Xbox One also has these stupid Xbox Live Gold memberships where you're paying for the right to pay for other things, which nobody else makes you do, and causes problems also.
There is a subscription for PlayStation Network, but it's substantially less, I think.
Right. Well, you pay to get on to play the games over the internet, but what the Xbox makes you pay for is the right to pay for Hulu,
right?
Which is a completely separate subscription on other systems.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, I do like the idea. I mean, we did not have cable until recently, so we watched a lot of our television through our Xbox 360. So, you know, I can understand the whole wanting the Xbox 360 to be, you know, the center of your living room, but, I mean, in some respects, that's fine, but in other respects, I'm kind of wary because it comes with the Kinect, and you have to have the Kinect, and the Kinect is always watching you.
Right.
And, you know, we've had trouble with the Kinect on the 360. You know, whereas when our dog or our cat walks across the back of the couch, the Kinect thinks it's a human waving and, like, does crazy stuff. Now, that said, the Kinect 2.0 or whatever for the Xbox One is supposed to be even more sophisticated. It's not only supposed to watch your every movement, but it's supposed to have facial recognition software so that it can recognize different individuals that it's seeing, and some other crazy things like that. And I don't know, like, people are really upset right now about this whole NSA taking all the information about the telephone calls you make thing. What do they think is going to happen? You know, is Microsoft going to be one of the companies that the government is saying, okay, give us all of your Kinect data so that we can see what people are doing? That's a little bit too big brother for me, especially since, like we said before, you have to connect at least once every 24 hours.
Right. I think that, first of all, for it to always be on, it better work better than the one we currently have, which we have left turned off for a while now because it just was not working.
Right.
And I think, second of all, they're going to have to make me want to connect more for me to feel like that's worth it.
Right.
I mean, outside of security issues, I haven't really seen a killer app for the Kinect yet. Yeah, it was fun to yell in Skyrim or whatever, but there hasn't been really, you know, the equivalent of a Halo or a Call of Duty where you have to use the Kinect for it.
Yeah, and I mean, the one Kinect game I really tried to play, which was the last little Fable Kinect game, Fable Journeys, I think it was. I can't even remember what it was called now because I just, like, could not stand to play it. Because even though, you know, it was controlled completely by the Kinect, but the Kinect had different ideas about what it thought I was doing versus what I was actually doing, and that was very frustrating. So, I mean, for all we know, the controls and the motion detection for the new Kinect for the Xbox One are much better, but it's really hard to say. Sorry, we have dogs, and Mary has the cone of shame, and that makes Pippin scared of him, so they are kind of crazy right now.
Yeah, he doesn't recognize him. He is a cone monster in his mind. So they're fighting a lot.
Yeah. But, you know, I I like the idea of the motion thing and like casting spells by waving my hand and doing different things, but I don't know that I necessarily need that out of my video gaming experience. I am just as immersed like in Skyrim with using a controller than I am like, waving my hands and stuff. Until the point that Microsoft creates a holodeck and I can like walk into it and like be actually in virtual reality, then yeah, maybe I'd want that out of my gaming system. But it's a mandatory part of it, whereas with the PlayStation 4, there's the Eye and the PlayStation Move, but those aren't included parts and those aren't required parts for you to have. So if you aren't interested in that kind of gaming, you don't have to have that experience.
Right, and I think a couple things I would say to that is, one, I am actually probably get more involved in Skyrim if I don't have to do physical movements because my arm gets tired if I have to throw spells every time and I cannot play for 8 hours. And second of all, that the PS4, the latest thing I heard is that you're going to be able to play games remotely via your Vita if you have them. So what that means is, of course, people who play MMOs 24/7, you will literally not have to not be playing your MMO when you are out of the house. You can play it anywhere.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, obviously the Wii already has a second screen and or the Wii U rather, is already kind of doing that. So it's, it's nice that you're going to be able to have the second screen with the PS4, and you can use Smart Glass with the Xbox One, which is like a phone app. Like I have it on my iPhone, and it's going to be be like on tablets and things like that. So I'm not sure that the gaming experience will be quite the same.
We'll see. I mean, I have it through Windows 8, but I have yet to get it to actually work with the Xbox 360.
Because your computer uses your email address and the Xbox uses mine, so it's kind of...
That would explain why.
It's kind of picky that way. So, now you had said to me that you thought there were some good things about the Xbox One over the PlayStation that you might want to either discuss or play devil's advocate for.
Well, we talked about some of them, I think. We had the fact that they are really trying to basically undercut people like GameStop and people like that who are trying to make you pay $60 for a game through all these extra things, and they are selling it to you for $30. Now, there's a couple things with that. Is the used games. There's been some talk about, you have to have you have to pay a fee to play used games. Well, I mean, currently you have to pay a fee to buy used games from other people, and you're not going to get, you're paying $60 for a game and you're trading it back to GameStop and they give you $5 when then they turn around and sell it for $40. Really, by just having it be electronic and selling it to you for, hopefully something like $35 or something like that.
No, it's going to be more around the same prices that they are now.
Well, that's not what they said.
That's what they said. That's what they just said.
Well, what I'm saying is, that's the only way you're going to see prices be different on different things.
Right.
So, now, I think one thing you might see, especially initially, is for the games people want to buy, it's going to be the same price.
Right.
But hopefully, for games that are maybe more niche, they'll be able to sell it for less depending.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem is that the assumption is that you're going to have to pay an extra fee per game when you buy a used game. So if you're buying a used game because it's only $40 versus $60, but then you have to pay a $20 fee on top of it, that kind of defeats the purpose. And there is kind of that feeling that maybe that's what Microsoft is trying to do. They're trying to eliminate the whole, used game thing and just get people to give them the $60.
Right.
Which I guess, would make sense, but it's still kind of something a little skeevy that Microsoft seems to be doing.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like I said, I think that they are, in a lot of ways, I like the idea of having things on the cloud, and I like the idea, if they can make it work, of having things be motion-based and being able to connect with people easily.
So I saw a great meme on Facebook the other day where it was like the PlayStation 4 is going to get the Elder Scrolls Online beta first because they're used to having to deal with bugs and fixes, and you know there have been things where Skyrim, which is the reference, has been patched on the Xbox 360, and they're still waiting for the fixes for the PlayStation 3. So.
Yeah, and I think a lot of games, for example, I mean, initially Halo games and things like that, there were a lot of games that people wanted to play that were just on the Xbox 360 or were just on the Xbox 360 for a long time, and then came to PlayStation. Now, especially if the PlayStation initially draws a lot of people because of problems with the Xbox One, you might see that start to shift, and there's been talk that maybe the PS4 is more friendly to like indie developers and things like that. So, you could see that shift, but the PS4 is definitely going to have to, work better than I think the PS3 has at times.
Right.
And it's going to have to, I think one thing you'll see is that, well, in the gaming community and people who are paying attention to E3 overwhelmingly would like the PlayStation 4, but the question becomes, 6 months from now, when someone's grandma is trying to buy it for their kid for Christmas, or is it going to be out for Christmas? I guess it will.
Probably.
If someone's grandma's trying to buy it for their kid for Christmas, and they don't know any of this, which one are they going to end up buying? And I think that Microsoft wants to position itself as sort of the mainstream one, and if PlayStation 4 wants to be the wonky gamers system, that's fine with them because they don't think that's what money is.
Right. But of course, it is a video gaming console, so you have to kind of keep in mind that part of your base. And the PS4 is not region locked, which is another big thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the map of the world, the number of places you can actually play the Xbox One is pretty small. It's like America and Western Europe and Australia and a couple other countries. And that's kind of it.
Yeah, and everywhere else, play your 360 according to them.
Yeah, exactly.
So, although, I had a PlayStation, I had the first PlayStation, I had a PlayStation 2, and I did not game for a while after that, and then I got the Xbox 360. Now, obviously, you did not grow up in a gaming household at all,
I played CPU games, so I did play video games. But my console gaming experience was mostly limited to Ocarina of Time on my daycare center's system. I kept having to blow in it to make it work.
Yeah, but I'm thinking at this point, because of things like the always having to be connected to the internet and...
Which I think is still a much bigger problem than they think it is.
Yeah.
One thing I've encountered in working with people in all walks of life is you will be amazed how many people are not really on the internet or have dial-up connections or something.
Right.
Like, it's a huge portion of the population. So.
I'm finished now.
Yes.
Yeah, but so with that and the $100 difference and, just the kind of attitude that Microsoft has had towards people, instead of trying to, listen to people who have been longtime supporters, I think that we were probably going to switch to the PS4. That said, I think that there are some things that Microsoft could do to make the Xbox One more viable.
Yeah.
First of all, get rid of the always connected to the internet feature.
Yeah.
Making it not mandatory to install games. I mean, having the option to download the games directly to your hard drive I think is a great idea, but I don't think you should have to install them. Getting rid of you can give this to your friend one time only, and everything else has a fee thing. That's kind of weird. And then even the price point. Yes, It does come with a Kinect, so maybe it should be a little bit more expensive, but maybe if it was, I don't know, like, $50 less, that would still make it more, competitive with the PlayStation 4.
If it's going to be $500, they can't make me keep paying for other stuff.
$500 is the reason that I don't have a PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
When they first came out, they were that much.
Yeah.
And it's funnily enough, Sony said, oh, you should be paying more for the PS3, which is now what Microsoft is saying about the Xbox One, but yeah, I just was not going to shell out that kind of money, because if you're going to do that, you might as well buy a nice desktop computer and do PC gaming, you know.
Yeah, and you know, it's ironic that a lot of the problems with the PS3 are now being brought up with the Xbox One, because the PS3 internet features were down for months. And what happens if that's true on the Xbox One? What if they get hacked by Anonymous or someone?
Right.
I mean, is no one going to be able to use their Xbox for months? I mean,
right.
You know, that's what they're risking.
Yeah, so I think Microsoft has a lot to think about. You know, I think sales will really tell, you know, with time, whether they decide to reverse some of the things. If they wanted, you know, since they're trying to push it as like this TV thing, you know, with cable and everything, what they should do is, you know, if they want to really sell them based on price, is maybe sell them through cable providers at a, you know, discounted rate. The way that you get your cable modem for cheap, if you know, sign up for cable with, you know, Fios or whatever, maybe you could do that with your Xbox One. So that might be something else for them to do.
Definitely.
But, so I think that our conclusion for right now is that we like the idea of the PlayStation 4 more than the Xbox One. We're interested to hear your thoughts, so please feel free to share them with us. And I think that's it for this thing of the week. And
hopefully next week our dogs will not be quite so rowdy, but they've had a tough week, so.
No promises.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see you next week for our next thing of the week, whatever it may be.
Yeah.